Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ball Agenda Reveal Show. I'm joined on my left-hand side by the beautiful Mr. Chinadu Asinugo. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, doing well. Always excited to be here. Let's talk football today.
You look very, very well dressed to impress. And on my left-hand side, in the famous 2015-16 United kit, Mr. Mekawani. How are you doing today, sir?
Good. Good England win today, and happy to talk about football and the Euros.
So is that where we want to start?
I think so.
Might as well.
Let's get into it. So we just witnessed a relatively comfortable 2-0 win for England over Germany at Wembley. We saw a pretty different lineup from Germany, but kind of what we expected from Gareth Southgate. First, I want us to start there. What did you guys think of the starting lineups from both teams? I'll start with you, Emeka.
With England, it was system-wise was what I expected. Throughout the week, there's been talk that Gareth Southgate will try and match Germany's system, and he did that. And I think it worked very well. When you see how effective Germany's wing-backs were against Portugal, you could see I hardly saw horses in the whole game because, again, when tactics are matched up together like that, sometimes it's just whoever is better on the day. And I felt England's players were a lot better on the day. You could tell that home advantage, which I don't really like how this tournament has kind of worked in a lot of teams' favor, where like England should not be playing. England played every single game at home so far, and you could tell it definitely worked to their advantage. But credit to Gareth Southgate, he's being so criticized, and everybody has a hot take on who should be playing, and he stuck to his guns, and so far it's working out. And I think the tactics definitely go 3-4-3, or 3-5-2, or three at the back anyway, three up front, 3-4-3 like Germany did. I think it worked wonders. And the fullbacks, the wing backs, Luke Shaw, Trippier bombing forward. Luke Shaw was fantastic. I thought Harry Maguire was a standout as well. He was fantastic, dominated in the air. He wasn't caught out of position even once. Declan Rice and Phillips, fantastic. Sterling, fantastic. Saka, he did his best. It wasn't his best game, but I think all the credit should go to Gareth Southgate today, because before the game, everyone, you know how they say, like, hundreds of millions of people feel that they know better than the manager, and today he has every right to, stand up and say, yeah, I was right. And just one last thing, also very poetic for him, because in 1996, the Euros in the semi-finals, he was the one that missed the penalty for Germany to go to the final, and he kind of got his revenge today. So shout out to Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, I definitely think, and that was definitely in the headlines before the game. So I'm glad that there was some sweet joy for him there on that side. Chinedu, what did you think of the Germany starting lineup?
Yeah, I think it was very interesting, the selection to go with Werner over Gnabry, and obviously that was the most talked about point going into the game. But I mean, it's a system that they've gotten used to playing the three at the back, and Gosens and Kimmich out wide were supposed to provide that width. But like Emeka said, they were stifled the whole game, and so I think on the balance of play, I'm looking at why Lowe might have gone with plain Werner, and maybe it's Gnabry was tired, fatigued, or maybe he just felt like Werner would have more luck against the English defenders, as he's always the one running behind. To be fair, I feel like it wasn't a convincing win on England's part. Germany had a few chances to first of all go up in the game when Werner missed a huge chance, and again to equalize when Mola missed a sitter. So
you would expect that.
You'd expect that?
I mean, you would expect. I mean, they would have. One
or two chances.
One or two, but I guess it's fine margins anyway, like you said.
Yeah, fine margins, and I wouldn't fault the selection per se, and Gnabry came on and looked off his game, to be very honest. So I actually wouldn't fault the selection on those parts. I just think on the day, England were up for it more. Maybe you talk about home advantage, but they looked the better side as well.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm on the same side as Emeka in terms of I don't see why a team should get to play all their games at home. I just think it's an unfair advantage, because in international football, really those fine margins come into play, especially because teams don't spend that much time with each other. So when a team has played somewhere so often, has majority of their fans as well, I think it's a little bit of an unfair advantage. And then in terms of Germany's lineup, I also thought it was curious maybe it was because of the late goal, but not to see Gundogan from the start. And that was also something that was surprising
he had
to me.
like an illness. No,
But
they
fit
said
to
he
be on the
had
bench.
like a bit of an illness. So yeah. So yeah, he apparently had like a cold or something. So he wasn't fit enough to start. But yeah, that was definitely a big miss. But I think for me, I think the biggest thing, like I said, was the wing back. The biggest thing was the wing backs. And I feel being able to match them, and it was clear like that was Germany's main danger point of the whole tournament so far. So having two opposing wing backs to match them, as well as Saka and Sterling being able to do the dirty work as well, and obviously having Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips there. I think England have been very, very, and I told you, it's not just about having two DMs. Like they're definitely a very well drilled team, DMs or not, and yeah. So credit to guys. I'll try and sort out my internet. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
Really quick to add to that. I mean, you can analyze the lineups, but I think up until 30th minute, Harry Kane had 2 touches of the ball. So I think the game plan for Germany was working. England had more of the possession, but they looked, I wouldn't say flat, but they weren't really progressing the ball that much in the first half at least. So I think the game could have definitely swung the Germany's direction. And then second half comes and they were losing the ball a lot cheaper. And England took their chances and Germany didn't. I think that's what the game came down to.
Thoughts on Raheem Sterling so far in this tournament?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's done what Raheem Sterling does for the last year and a half, where his all-round game might not always be there, but you can tell he got to score. And I guess off the ball movement is one of the best in Europe. He's almost as good as a tap-in merchant as like any striker you see. He's almost all his goals are tap-ins. Like he's always been very, very good at finding space in the box. And I love his build-up to Shaw, then finishing off after giving it to Grealish. But you can tell he's very hungry to score. But there were many times where he came in the field and his touch wasn't quite right. He wasn't able to link up the player as well as you want him to, where you want maybe like a Grealish in the half left position. And you can see like Sterling, sometimes he's so much of a pure winger and his technique can be very, very spotty and inconsistent. But what I'll credit him for, he stepped up in Northwest London boy playing in Wembley, and you can tell he has that hunger to score. And like I say, his positioning and off the ball movement is fantastic. But I'm not going to act like his performances have been sensational or something that they haven't, because they haven't been. But he's come up clutch in big moments. But his all-round game still definitely has leaves a bit to be desired.
Yeah, and I think going off of that, his performances in previous tournaments had definitely been brought up, and also his form at City this season wasn't that great. So, but for England, it's 15 goals in his last 20 appearances. Like you said, is that off the ball movement is really great, and in a team where Kane hasn't really been able to in this tournament really light up and do what he normally does. It's been great to see Sterling stepping up and wearing the responsibility of goal scoring. And it was also good to see Kane get on the score sheet as well. Just 2 more questions on this. One, where do you stand on the fact that, or the opinion that Mesut Ozil gave Joachim Löw a career? And 2, that Toni Kroos can perform for Germany without Mesut Ozil holding his hand. I'll start with you, Chinedu.
I wouldn't go as far as saying he gave him a career, but I think there's something lacking in the German, middle of the park. And that may be down to system, because if you look at it, they play, at least this year, they played a 3-4-2-1. And so that's those 3 up top, Havertz, Müller, sometimes Gnabry, sometimes Werner. They're not really helping out in the midfield as much as, if you played, for instance, a 3 in Ozil, Kroos, and whoever else, right? So I think it might be a system thing where Kroos doesn't do as well in a 2 as he does in a 3. So that Real Madrid, he's primarily played in a 3. And so I wouldn't go as far as saying Ozil gave Löw a career, nor say that Kroos needs his hand held, but I think the system does not favor Kroos right now. And he doesn't have the legs that he used to play in a 2, to be very honest.
We miss Sami Khedira also. Well, let's move to the other one that was touted as a classic in these round of 16 matches, Belgium versus Portugal. And I'll start with you, Chinedu. What we saw was a pretty evenly contested battle. Belgium getting not really creating too many clear-cut chances, but a great strike from Torgan Hazard to break the deadlock, and Belgium riding their luck a little bit with Portugal hitting the post and missing a couple of good chances. Yes, but on a whole, what I thought would be a very boring game ended up being pretty end-to-end and pretty interesting. Towards the end, especially. But I wanted to get your thoughts straight on how you thought that played out versus what you thought would happen at the start of the game.
Yeah, great question. I think we had talked about this last week about Portugal changing their system. Come the next game, they did change their system. They switched to a 4-3-3, and it looked a lot more defensive now. So going into the game against Belgium, I honestly expected Portugal to, just as they did, sit back and take up most of the, or soak up most of the pressure, and then try and hit them on the counter. But I think Portugal just lacked that cutting edge when it got to the attacking third, and they have lacked that because of system. Like, for instance, Bruno did not play, and Bernardo Silva played on the wings, and Bernardo Silva didn't really offer much in this game. And it poses the question like, okay, you have all these big names and you have all these superstars or whatever, but if they don't fit in the system, then why are you playing the 4-3-3, for instance? So I think Portugal deserved to go out on the day. I think Belgium maybe didn't deserve to win, but I mean, class will always come through. Torgan Hazard is fantastic, right? And I just think, I mean, if Portugal want to progress in any competition, they have to figure out how do we play our big players and put them in positions to actually prosper.
Yeah, I think notable things to remember, Renato Sanchez was very good throughout this tournament and also in that game. I also think that there was a gross mismanagement of Andre Silva and Joao Felix not playing at all in the tournament, and then throwing Felix on to be the savior at the end of the tournament. Who'd you say?
There was a mismanagement of Bruno Fernandes as well.
I wouldn't say as much because he did get some minutes. The players I'm talking about only getting minutes to be saviors right at the end. Always bringing in Andre Silva 10 minutes to go when you need a goal with no minutes, never trusting him. And I think that for someone who scored so many goals in the Bundesliga and who is a goal scorer when you're struggling for goals, I think Santos just got stuck in just his traditional way of his traditional tactics, and was too rigid, I think, with the array of attacking talent that he had. And the other two talking points from the game would obviously be Eden Hazard and Kevin De Bruyne, who are ruled out of the game of their quarterfinal matchup against Italy. So before we get into that, we should talk about Italy-Austria and what you took from that game. I'll start with you, Emeka.
Wait, is the Hazard and De Bruyne, that's confirmed?
Confirmed they'll be back if they progress past the quarterfinal, but they're missing the quarterfinal.
They're missing the next game.
Oh, okay.
De Bruyne was actually.
We'll get into what we think will happen, but for now, let's talk about Italy.
De Bruyne was taking off for halftime, and Hazard finished almost did.
Wait, sorry, can you guys just give me a second? Sorry, just Chinedu, go ahead.
Yeah, Chinedu, let's talk about it. What did you think of the Italy-Austria game?
I mean, we had already picked Italy as one of our favorites to win the tournament, and I think the first 90 minutes didn't really do them justice. But I think Chiesa, hats off to Chiesa. From the moment he stepped on the field, he looked like he wanted it more than everybody else. And I think that just shows like the wealth of attacking talent that Mancini has at his disposal to have to, week in, week out, pick between Berardi and Chiesa. And also, I feel like, I remember when we talked about this last week, when we talked about Verratti coming back into the squad. He started the game, but I think they looked a lot. I'm sorry, there's been a goal in the 121st minute of the game. I kid you not.
It hasn't even.
Ukraine.
It hasn't refreshed on my end.
That's crazy.
Who scored?
I have no idea. I just saw them celebrating. Ukraine just.
Oh, Ukraine scored.
Yeah,
wow.
Scored.
Who did?
I'm literally just seeing
I see. It's
Shevchenko.
not clear. Yeah, it's not clear.
Well, we might actually be coming home. Because they're only winning because of that red card. I'm so sad.
Yeah. But no, I was saying I think the team. Oh, it might be offside though. To be very honest.
Okay, great. Because I want to see penalties.
Might. But no, I was saying about the Italy game. I think they looked a little less balanced with Verratti in there, because the brand of football I've seen them play this tournament is a bit quicker, a bit more free flowing, and Verratti kind of held the ball up too much. Maybe tried to dictate the pace of the game a little too much. And when Locatelli came in and Pessina, I think they changed the shape of the game, the look of the game. So I think Mancini still has a lot to figure out in terms of what his starting lineup will look like. But Italy again impressed, I think.
Were we expecting this to go to extra time, Emeka?
No, of course not. I was very surprised. I was very surprised I did. But like Chinedu mentioned, I think Verratti somewhat again slowed them down in a way. Like he okay, actually that would be unfair for it to put that on him. But they weren't as adventurous as they have been. Locatelli and Barella a bit more off the cuff, a bit more up and down. Where when you have Jorginho and you have Verratti in the same midfield, they kind of do not similar things because Jorginho is obviously more defensively aware, but they're more patient and in how they play. But I wasn't like Chiesa for me. I wouldn't say he should have been starting, but I'm surprised he hasn't been starting all tournament because he had a very good season for Juve and he's very, very unpredictable. He can go inside, he can go outside, he can get goals. He's a better dribbler. Even though Berardi might be a bit more like refined in his game, but I wasn't surprised to see Chiesa come off the bench and emulate what his own dad did in Euros before. So I think that was a good substitution, and I won't be surprised to see a bit more of him going forward.
Yeah, I think that was 25 years apart, and what a finish, because the ball was a good find, but it just had a little bubble right before it got to him, and the way he was able to take it off his head, and the little nick right before the defender, and then the composure to just keep his knee over the ball and smash it in was really exceptional.
What he has over Berardi, like I said, he can go inside, he can go outside, and he's a lot more explosive, a lot more dynamic. Like I said, Berardi, we know his game is about cutting in, passing, or the finesse shot. But Chiesa can go in and out, and I can see why. To be fair, he's seen as a good substitute to bring on and potentially change the game. But I was surprised the game was that close. But more often than not, you see teams like Italy find a way in the end.
Thoughts on Austria's performance?
I was just about to say credit to Austria. I mean, at some point in the game, it actually looked like they are taking the lead with Arnautovic. They weren't fantastic on the day, but I would say they were resilient on the day, and as you should be in a knockout game, because anything can happen. And so I give them credit, but I always thought Italy was going to outclass them, which kind told, and they did outclass them. So
yeah, I totally will agree with that. Yeah, and credit to them. But yeah, it was that was definitely set the tone early for. I think there was really only one game that wasn't close or even, and that's where we'll go next with Wales versus Denmark. And back to what I said about the Danes potentially being dark horses in this tournament. What do we think now after watching that performance?
There we go. Credit to them. It was bet against boys. Just like looking at those Welsh ballers, just looking like championship guys. I'm not even like. And to be fair, half their squad is like championship from the championship anyway. But the quality levels are miles. the quality disparity was quite big, and there were times where there was a move from the back line. The Danes were just passing. They had like a maybe 15-20 pass move, and they ended up in a shot. I was like, the quality levels was just too far apart, and I love their little back three, and it's just like it's like a poor man's but still quality back three where you have Kerr, you have Christensen, and you have Vestergaard or
it's one of those things that you're like, this is kind of good actually.
I was like, look, it's actually not bad, those guys are actually not bad, and they're all together there. Then you have Højbjerg protecting. Then Braithwaite, and they have and Damsgaard. They have a sneakily good team,
Yeah, and exactly.
I won't be surprised if they're the ones that England face in the semis.
the what is it called? I wouldn't say budget or poor man's, but just the just a notch lower level of the Barzagli, Bonucci, Chiellini, where you're like, okay, I'm trying to get there, but I don't quite have the funds.
Yeah, but
let me put this together.
They're good, and like Kerr is like obviously he's a leader. He's a monster. He's really good, dominant. Then you have the ball playing of obviously Vestergaard as well, fantastic in there. Then Christensen, then Schmeichel at the back, then Højbjerg. Then obviously there's no Eriksen, but like when you actually have all those pieces, it's actually a pretty good team.
Because I think Højbjerg has always been touted as, and he was the leader in Southampton. Kerr is the leader in Milan. Schmeichel is the leader in Leicester. These are all big voices, people that understand the game and can also motivate the younger players around them. And also big credit to Kasper Dolberg. Everyone's talking about the year he's had, the injuries, the COVID, the teammates stealing his watch.
He's still somewhere.
Why do people always talk about that?
Like,
how do people even know about that?
Why is that a thing? Why does that affect his football? But okay, let's.
Nah, Gav, they steal your £80,000 watch. You won't be able to play ball for some weeks. That's probably like 2 weeks' salary.
Yeah, that's okay because he still has a contract. He'll make it back. That's why he has $80,000 watch.
They stay $80,000. You have to leave that team, and I was fine who did it because it still seems like they don't know who did it. They always say a teammate.
Yeah. But no, I think my pick of the bunch is Damsgaard actually coming in to fill in for Eriksen. He's been fantastic. I think he's one of those players you can talk about their stock rising. His stock has skyrocketed.
But he'll be going to like Leipzig or somewhere very soon.
And that's fine because that will develop him. That will
Dortmund.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Dortmund would be a really good move.
And Braithwaite as well. I don't know if he's raised his stock particularly, but I can now understand why he was even in the radar of Barcelona, right? Because watching him play for them, he looked like a fox between, or like a fox with a tail between.
Be careful though.
Because
I think wanted to compare it to someone good now.
No, relax. No, I'm saying when he plays for Barcelona, he just like gets the ball, passes stuff like very tamely. He barely has any shots. And now
you have to be humble when you're playing in Barcelona.
So now I can understand. Like he can't be explosive at times. So I understand kind of why they were even going for him in the first place as a short-term replacement. But yeah, the team has a very strong core, and I think they're gonna still carry on their journey.
Yeah. Our next stop will be Netherlands versus the Czech Republic. We have since received news today that Frank de Boer has stepped down, even though he was definitely going to get sacked. And after a very, very poor performance from Netherlands, they had the one chance where, honestly, the game could have been turned on its head. But once they missed, and they get the red card, which was a red card to the Ligt, they go behind later on in the game. And then you just see that the Czechs are actually a very, very solid defensive team. And on those set pieces, you just have to always give them a chance if they stay in the game. But I don't know what you guys thought about the game and how it panned out, because I think a lot of people thought it would be more comfortable for Netherlands and people were tipping them to do pretty well in this tournament. But I'll start with you, Emeka, on what you took away from that game.
Yeah, for sure. I thought Netherlands would win, and I think most people did. They won their group fairly handily against teams they should beat, to be fair. So I expected that. And once Malin missed that chance, you kind of suspect that it might not be your day. But I like that front two of Malin and Depay, and I think they're going to cause a lot of teams problems going forward. But yeah, after the red card, I have to give credit to
going forward
the Czech
where
Republic.
Yeah,
like going for future tournaments.
In the next friendly.
World Cup is next year. They'll have Van Dijk back. Van Dijk, obviously the league Wijnaldum, and I think they still have a good call if they can get a decent manager. But yeah, credit to Czech Republic. Once the league got sent off, rightfully so, as you said, I think they managed the game fantastically well, and they were in control. I could still see they had their threat going forward, and they deservedly won the game. And again, Patrick Schick again continuing to raise his stock. Another player that's continuing to show the potential we all thought he had, and now he's finally showing that again. And that is deadly left foot again came to make the difference for Czech Republic.
I would love for him to win the Golden Boot, honestly. But my other thing that I took, it was interesting hearing Sami Khedira say in knockout football, one of the things that you absolutely need to make sure you don't do is get a red card. And we've seen it here today with Sweden. We saw it for Netherlands. You really just, in these 90-minute games that is just one-off, you really kill your team. And the other team, regardless of how weak they are, all of a sudden feel like we just have to play 45 more minutes. We can beat these guys. And the pendulum will completely shift. And that was also a very, very silly thing from De Ligt, because he might have gotten away with it with no VAR.
Yeah.
But when because you saw he tried to be a little cheeky about doing it, but on the replay, it's very clear what you're trying to do.
Under the table, really quick. Yeah, I don't know why. And I think, I mean, we've not been in those positions. So I get in the
in the heat of the moment, you do.
Like,
so he tried to act like he got pushed and like he's getting pushed. So so I mean, you would do it, but like, I mean, then you'd be like, oh damn, yeah. Well, I think everyone would.
If we go to, so from there we actually go to another game where we thought the pendulum shifted when there was a game-changing moment, and that would be France versus Switzerland. Switzerland, the job that Pekovic has done is just exceptional, because the Swiss actually are so comfortable in possession. They build up really well from the back. They have a midfield that really connects the play with their front two attackers, and they have a game plan when they get into that final third. And Seferovic is really, really, really a handful. I thought that in the game they bossed it for all but maybe 7 minutes total of the game, where France turned the game on its head and had some spells of good possession. I thought the Swiss bossed it throughout. They go ahead from a fantastic header from Seferovic, amazing center forward play. That's probably my favorite goal of this tournament, to be honest, simply because of what he does before the ball comes in and how he just puts it in the corner. It doesn't even look like such a powerful header, but it's so well directed. They go ahead, they bust the first half, then unable to add to it after a few good chances. And right at the start of the second half, some atrocious refereeing to not give a penalty straight away, but correcting it very dramatically, the way he threw his hand, that was a penalty. But given the penalty, Rodriguez, who apparently had missed his last 2 penalties, missing his 3rd penalty in a row for Switzerland. And all of a sudden, great save from Lloris, by the way. And all of a sudden, the match changes. France go up the other end, score 2 goals in 3 minutes. And then 10 minutes later, add another one. And it's 3-1. What are you guys thinking at that moment? I'll start with you.
I mean, I think I thought what every rational person would think, right? The game's done. The game's done. I mean, Pogba is doing,
palliative dance.
Game's done. World champions.
Zlatan going global.
Game's done. World champions. You're up 3-1 in the 75th minute. Game's done, right? Surely, but football. I think a lot of people are quick, and I've seen it on the team. A lot of people are very quick to criticize Deschamps for taking off Griezmann. But I think France as a whole, as a unit, have to literally examine themselves and say, what happened in that game? Defensively, they were off it. And you cannot blame the manager for making a defensive change when they are up. So, I mean, we can sit here and say, Deschamps should have just let Griezmann on if there's a possibility of going to the extra time. But I think the players on the field just didn't handle the game properly. People cite Pogba losing the ball, for the 3rd goal, blah, blah, blah. But there's not much Pogba could have done about it. So
Pogba Giveth, Pogba Taketh away.
But that's okay. They literally played him a hospital pass. There's nothing you could have done about that.
I'm joking.
There's nothing. Let's be honest here.
I'm joking.
That's so funny. And that might be the title.
It wasn't poor management by the by the coach or by the manager. I think it was just poor management by the on-field personnel.
But you could tell he was trying to do something silly. With anytime someone controls the ball with their studs, they're about to do something silly.
Don't be that. They played him that ball. And there were 3 men
because he's already done it once. I mean, no, obviously, when people say you're crazy to blame him. I'm a little confused because then who
Why?
do you blame if not him that lost possession? But I also understand that he was surrounded by 4 people and
When you
you
receive
can't
the ball.
exactly. But who do you blame? It's still the person who lost the ball.
No,
So
because they literally, you can say that, but he lost the ball in opposition half.
but it's in transition, doesn't matter.
It's in transition, fine, but it was not in a compromising situation.
When did Sterling lose the
As a
ball
United
today?
fan-
When did Sterling lose the ball today that led to Muller's chance?
It was Sterling gave it away. Like this one.
Yeah, but it was also in
pass
the
as
opposition
well.
half. But once it's in transition,
Yeah, no, but
you
the
kill your
passer
team.
should have been more. The passer should have been a bit smarter. But again, you know, sometimes when you're a confident player like Pogba, like you're there,
You always want
giving
it.
the ball, like you always want
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
So, and Pogba has lost the ball many times in that situation as a United fan.
In more
So,
that's
but
what I'm
again,
saying, as
when
a
in this
United fan,
situation,
Yeah.
there's I'm not going. Obviously, I can't give him the full blame, but again, I mean, he lost the ball, but yeah, it wasn't like a glaring error on his part. He just kind of was in tough situation and he got unlucky. But for France, I think it was just really it was just a concentration thing. The same thing that happened with Spain later, which we'll obviously touch on. I think they like every other rational person, like you said, thought that it was done, and they thought the Swiss would roll down and die after, especially losing their lead, missing a penalty. So I think they lost their concentration, and their defensive shape obviously it was weird because now obviously they took off Lenglet for Coman. You're still having Rabiot playing left back. Kimpembe just looking shocking. Varane as well wasn't looking his best. So you could tell there was a bit of concentration lapse there. Kante never gets any criticism, but again, where was he? Like all game, he was just running around. I said he was moving like Fred this whole tournament because he wasn't really doing anything. And of course, he won't get any criticism. It's all going to be on Paul Pogba.
Because Kante's rubbish is never like so in your face.
I know, but even the thing that is meant to be good at, like he wasn't there. Like he wasn't there either. So I think Paul Pogba was the best player in this tournament. So I'm obviously being a bit disingenuous, but I think it was just a concentration thing. And credit to the likes of Xhaka, who completely
mentality of steel.
I won't go that far with
captain.
Hair.
Fantastic. When your team is down, you need your captain to lift you up.
I don't go that far, but the pass for, was it the final goal? The final goal. It was
delicious pass. Because the thing I loved about that pass was he took his time. When he got the ball, it would have been easy to do something really quickly. He slowed down a little bit, waited for the space to open up a little bit, and just drilled it in. Yeah. And what a piece of skill from Gavranovic. That was nasty.
That was just poor defending.
Kimpembe, that was terrible defending, man. Kimpembe.
Yeah, he just like
apparently that guy was he didn't have a club like 18 months ago, and he's doing
doesn't matter.
He's doing that to Kimpembe.
What does that have to do with anything?
Kimpembe should be ashamed of himself.
You stay on your feet. As a defender, you know that you stay on your feet.
Kimpembe, while on his knees, saw that ball.
That's why they won Varane. They won Varane and Sergio Ramos.
The one thing
Kimpembe, while still on his knees, saw the ball drilled into the side netting. What a feeling.
Yeah, the one thing I fought Deschamps for is actually Rabiot. I don't know what Rabiot had to offer in this.
It's the Digne injury. Digne would have probably been.
Digne and Lucas,
Hernandez was on the bench.
No, he got injured as well, I think.
Yeah. They didn't take one of them, they didn't take, and one of them was injured.
Yes, they didn't take
Tail, and then Lucas is injured. Okay, and Digne got injured in the last game also, so that it kind of hands are tied.
Yeah, I just didn't see over the course of the 3 games I've seen Rabiot play.
And the first half killed them as well. For the first time in the whole tournament, they decided to go with 3 at the back, and obviously when they changed it, they started looking a bit better going forward. But France should not be trying to match Switzerland in any way, shape, or form. Go with what got you this far, and now you're playing Koundé, then you're playing Rabiot at wing back. It just looked very shaky. The first half, it looked shaky. They didn't look comfortable. Then second half, I thought Coman was fantastic for them. I love a direct wing. That's like, again, as a United fan, like that is what I was brought up on, like direct wing play, not all this cutting in and like trying to link up the play, like actually go at your man and beat your man, turn him inside out, cross the ball. And
this is my list that I always have in my book of my top 5 favorite players.
Oblak, Ozil, Giroud, Coman, and Payet.
My
Yeah,
favorite
Coman.
players, my top 5. I always have this list ready.
But
I
yeah,
love
three,
Coman.
Credit
three, at
to
the, three at the back is the new pandemic for real, for real.
yeah, I told you guys, and I think it's telling you guys it's the new, it's going, especially for teams that are weaker. It's the perfect formation because also you can pack the defense, then you have wing backs that can go up and down, and you can always have now 2 guys up top to just cause havoc. Where you have
Remember who
Seferovic and
pioneered
Embolo.
this?
Seferovic and Embolo. Who pioneered who?
Remember who revolutionized football in the last 5 years and pioneered
If you're not saying like a Van Gaal 5 or something, if you're mentioning Mourinho, I don't.
It was the Don Conte. I remember after Arsenal beat Chelsea 3-0, he changed to a 3 at the back.
Bro, Van Gaal,
and like went to like a 20 match unbeaten.
Van Gaal was playing that in the Premier League before Conte. It was
not
not
anywhere near as dynamically as Conte was playing at Chelsea.
No, but it's not about the dynamism now.
But I think off of Conte in the Premier League, every manager started doing that. From what I remember, because he completely changed Chelsea, won the league that same season where they looked so poor before they started playing.
He played it fantastically well, but I don't say that he pioneered. But the fact that again, that's the benefit of a 3-4-3 system. Like I said, it helps mask a lot of problems in your team, and if you can win the league with likes of Alonso and Victor Moses, but just have a stable 2, solid 3, and guys that can cause havoc up front. And I think it's the ultimate balance or like formation that can match every other thing you're trying to do.
Hazard,
like
William, Costa.
He has his weaknesses, but I think that system, if played well or utilized well, you can mask so many of your problems. And Tuchel have done exactly the same thing, 3-4-3, and a nasty ass team is settled. Yeah, for sure. But again, it's still the same idea. Lock up. We're lacking a bit up top. Lock up. 2 DMs, and let's see what happens. And yeah.
And they'll make a mistake, and we'll pack the bus. And I think also this, just in my head, at least, I'm drawing the parallel between this campaign and France at the World Cup in 2010. I think they respected Raymond Domenech a lot less in 2010 when they went out in the group stage and they just had the whole mess that destroyed a lot of players' careers internationally. But this campaign, with all the stuff we've been seeing coming out in the media, I feel like there was some toxic stuff happening in the dressing room, and that probably would have gotten swept under the radar if they just kept going. But now that they've gone out, everyone that was coming out, the infighting that was coming up, and I don't know if you guys have really explored that angle, but want to see or have thought about that, and any thoughts you have on whether that might have actually impacted them in this tournament or distracted them.
Yeah. When you see Mbappe's performances, potentially, like maybe it might not be necessarily infighting, but it's a shift from like maybe that humility that was hungry or a shark. Like Tuchel called him a shark at his mentality. Sorry, my internet is a bit spotty again.
We can hear you now.
So yeah, I think it's more about the hunger and the mentality. So maybe not like Mbappe played badly because he and Giroud had a squabble, but more like Mbappe now, his head is not where his head was at in the last tournament. Or like he thinks now he can be saying anything, he can be talking.
So wait to see if we can get Mecca back. But do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, not really, no real thoughts, because I haven't done my research as to what really went on in the back of the.
I mean, in short, Giroud saying Mbappe is in love with Benzema, only passes to Benzema when he comes on the pitch, doesn't pass to him, and Mbappe comes out, says whatever, and then that's just the whole media frenzy around that.
Yeah,
and yeah, it just seems like Mbappe now is no longer the humble kid on the block that was working really hard, and now they have all these competing superstar egos in the camp.
Yeah, you can cite that, but I think that's an easy way out for France. Because at the end of the day, they still like that 2 positions, maybe 3 positions being affected. I don't think it's a threat to the entire dressing room. And I think at the end of the day, they are professionals and they dealt with a lot more than this. So I think if you cite that as, like, for instance, you can say, okay, that's why France, they lost concentration. No, that shouldn't cause high-level professionals like people on the French national team.
But did in 2010.
Concentration. That was a whole bigger like issue, and I think that's what I'm saying. In this case, it only impacts like 2-3 people on the team: Benzema, Giroud, and in this case Mbappe. Yeah, sure, Mbappe missed a few chances, but I mean, before the chance he missed, for instance, the 2 goals he scored, he was involved in both of them. So I think at the end of the day, like, it's an easy way out for France. They just lost concentration on the day, and they could have been a lot better. They could have seen the game out easily. They could have still been in this tournament if they just all had kept their heads. That's it. I don't think it's because of the issues.
Yeah, no, I think I get Chinedu's point there. Sometimes these things we over dissect them after a team has lost. So I wouldn't say like that's the reason, but I do think there's an element of that shift in mindsets from being hungry. You lost the Euros in 2016, and then you're hungry for the World Cup, and you lost at home in the final. Then you're hungry for the World Cup, but now you're top dogs. You're the favorites, and there's like silly fights. Players are complaining that I'm not getting past the ball. Younger players are, castigating other players. Talking about come and say it to my face. So I think there's definitely a bit more of that. You see the way the guys like Varane were defending. Varane was arguably the best central defensive performance in the World Cup since Cannavaro when he won the Ballon d'Or off the World Cup. He was sensational last World Cup. There's just that lack of hunger, I think, and
across the team. Yeah,
Zuber in this game had the beating of one Pavard for sure, and also Varane. He was exceptional for holding the ball up and getting Switzerland up the pitch, but also he was getting in behind and beating players, and I thought it was just a fantastic wing performance from him, and obviously the deliveries into the box, you can't say much more. Yeah. Awesome. We can go over to Croatia v Spain. The first of 2 matches on probably the best day of football this year. 3-3. Another game where we saw some really curious things. An own goal that's somehow being credited to Sarabia when it comes off Simon's foot, and Spain actually creating chances and putting them away, going 3-1 up, and big
credited to
Pedri.
To Pedri, why did I say Sarabia? To Pedri, even though Simon's foot nicks it. And a solid performance from Spain, but also at the end, losing concentration and getting pegged back to 3-3 before a very dominant performance in extra time. I'll start with you, Emeka, from what you took away from the game and how you see Spain now in light of their last 2 games where they've now scored 10 goals.
Yeah. I mean, a few things I've noticed. First of all, my first question is, I don't know why Eric Garcia is starting ahead of Pau Torres, but I guess maybe he doesn't want 2 left-footed centre-backs again, but Eric Garcia, for me, is very lightweight. I know he's very good on the ball, but I'm not a big fan. But the thing I noticed, Ferran Torres, and I mentioned that I wanted him to start. I thought he'd be starting with Gerard Moreno, but I think about Ferran Torres, he's like a young Sterling almost, in the sense where like he's just very direct. He's not the best finisher in the world, but he's positioning. He gets in the right areas. He's hungry to score, and he scored a hat-trick for Spain a few months ago. Like he's very underrated. I don't think people are giving him credit he deserves. I really like him. I like him a hell of a lot. And again, Spain. I thought they played well. I thought they did their thing. Obviously, they ended up bottling a lead as well. But I like to see them playing a lot more direct, and they're doing that. I think they heard all the critics about no one cares about how much you hold the ball, like you need goals. And I think that they're doing that now. And again, that's why you're probably not seeing Thiago at all. Like I think actually the manager now understands and bringing the likes of Ferran Torres. I think it's all out. They're really just trying to have some cutting edge. And you see Azpilicueta, right back, not right wing back, to score a header in the 6-yard box. It says a lot about your intent to score. And lastly, just credit to Morata for again, he's been doubted. His family members have been threatened, and to score such a fantastic goal, even though he missed like two or three others. Spain. I think Spain are an enigma, and I think I don't think they're going to go too far. I think once they meet either Belgium or Italy, I think that's them.
Really?
But it's good
We'll
to
get
see.
into
It's good
that.
to see
We'll
them.
get
It's
into
good to see them
that.
have it. It's good to see them have more of an attacking thrust to their game.
I had this note written down to say last week when we talked, but I forgot, and then it worked out, and then I felt like if I say it, it'll be as if I'm just making it up. But one thing I was going to say last week was I thought a lot of the stuff that the problems Spain was having was because of lack of Sergio Busquets, and now that he's back,
I like that.
I was going to say like when we see him in the next game, I think things will be a little bit different in terms of just how they build up through the middle and just connect the play with the attackers. And I thought that a lot of that was there in this last game. I also thought that you mentioned Morata's fantastic finish, the moment between him and De Gea, there was very, very sweet moments. And honestly, I feel like Spain are building up steam. 5 goals in 2 consecutive games definitely has to have them feeling like they can score against anyone. And they probably still just need to figure out defensively because it wasn't really a good defensive performance. But I think in the last 2 games, people are starting to take Spain a little bit more seriously. Chinedu, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you hit a lot of stuff that I was going to hit, like, for instance, Sergio Busquets coming back into the team, providing a lot more balance, I think, to their team in terms of how they build out from the back. But I think credit to Luis Enrique because he's been very willing to actually tweak things in the team. He picked a lot, like he took out Jordi Alba, a guy was involved in the first goal he scored, starting Sarabia, who has actually been playing, like the one game he started, I think was our last game. Fantastic game he had. He had another fantastic game. Played Azpilicueta over Llorente, who, I mean, that's a more natural feel for Azpilicueta there. So I think he's still kind of trying to figure things out. But like you said, they're building steam. And now people are starting to fear them because, like you said, they scored 10 goals in 2 games. But I think as far as I'm concerned, the one weakness I'd have is still Morata in front of goal and how wasteful he is. Yes, he scored a fantastic goal, but I think he had a few chances during the game to actually put the game to bed. And against quality opposition, like you talk about, likes of Belgium or whatever, they're going to rule those missed chances. So yeah, I think they're young, slightly inexperienced side who have a lot to offer, but if they don't, fix their act in front of goal, they won't get as many chances against quality sides.
I think the goal will do him a world of good. Finally getting on the score sheet after missing the penalty might be the boost that he needs to be a bit more clinical in front of goal. A lot of things with strikers is just instinct and just feeling like, okay, I can't do this again. And I feel like that was such a good finish and such an important time in the game and pressure goal that it might be the trigger he needs to step up. It might be.
But even like in that same game after that, he still had I remember there was one running behind and he didn't do much. So I think like Chinedu said, like the chance Bernard missed today, 1-on-1, if he scores that, it's a different game. So I think we'll have a moment like that Morata where it's like, he's just not that guy. He's just not that guy. He will score some goals, but he's just not that guy. So I think that might be a differentiating factor. But again, credit to, and also last point on this, like credit to Pedri as well.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, credit to Pedri. Credit to Pedri.
120 minutes.
For scoring?
Stop it.
No, for his performance. For his performance.
No,
don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
He had a fantastic game.
Well taken goal.
He had a fantastic game and he played, 120 minutes of a very intense
quality
game.
little player.
I've loved Pedri ever since I did FIFA career mode, and he was one of my young players in Barcelona that I was bringing up. And that was before he even. I'm thinking Puig. I'm thinking Ricky Puig actually. But Pedri I still like as well. We'll go to our last stop, which was just today. 2-1, Ukraine beating Sweden. Kind of an upset. Red card for Sweden in added time, depriving us of a penalty shootout with 1 minute to go. And I want to get your thoughts on Ukraine, who seemed like the only team in the round of 16 that didn't come to play football at this tournament, get into the quarterfinals.
I cannot speak on this because I know what's the game. My apologies.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, I could go on it. I can go on it. So Ukraine. I mean, they only have how many notable players? I mean, there's Zinchenko, Yabalenko, blah blah blah. And for me, the picture,
Yaremchuk.
even though they lost, the standout for me was Forsberg. Yeah, I think they left back or their center back Masivenko in Shakhtar. But yeah, for me, the picker was still Forsberg. He's been one of the best players this tournament. And I tweeted a few like an hour ago, like he's been moving like Neymar, like especially in this game, he was just going on the left, cutting in, carrying the ball. Like he's been playing sensationally, and obviously I've known he's a good player for Leipzig, but I've not seen this. I've not seen this one before.
Because he's always injured
so like
whenever he's like they're about to play like a big game where everyone can see him. They're like, "Oh, Forsberg is out for this."
Yeah. So like we said, we started the pod as the game was going on, so we didn't really catch everything. But I think England will be happy with this result.
So now I think we can actually go into what we're going to see for the quarterfinals. So when you have Belgium facing Italy, quick 20-second answer on what you think will happen and who you think will win. Chinedu, I'll start with you.
I'll first of all start by saying I think that whoever wins that game goes on to win the tournament. I think it will be a very, very open affair.
Enemy.
What do you say?
I say you're an enemy. Why are you hating already?
He's not coming home, bro. I've told you. I don't have to say it again, but he's not coming home. It's going to be anything but a cagey affair, I think. I think the styles of play are very attacking. And so it's going to be a very, very open game, probably end to end. And I think it comes down to the quality of players on the day. It's huge that Hazard and De Bruyne are not playing for Belgium. So I think Italy actually edges it on the day.
That's Italy for Chinedu. Emeka?
Yeah, I'll not able to go into any deep analysis.
Just give a scoreline, 2-1, okay.
Yeah, just because without Hazard and De Bruyne, I think in a big game like this, I think that would be the difference. So I think a narrow Italy win.
You don't think Carrasco and Mertens can do the job?
I think they, of course they can. Of course they can, but I think Italy might edge it without them. But with both Hazard and De Bruyne, I think Belgium are the best team in the tournament. But I think that would be the difference on the day.
Before I go to the next game, say the headline from the round of 16 was Coke 1, Heineken 0, Water 0. So, because Granit Xhaka at the end of the game was drinking Coke. So just to know, all of you that are hating on Coke, Ronaldo, if you drank Coke, you might still be in the tournament. So just let you know. Next. Coke come and sponsor Ball Agenda Review Show. They're already sponsoring, but you guys can pay a little bit more. Shout out to our corporate sponsors, Coca-Cola Nigeria and Coca-Cola UK. We appreciate you. Just a quick word there for our sponsors. In the next game, we're going to see Denmark go up against the Czech Republic. What do we think is going to happen there, Emeka?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun game. One of those ones that might be a bit underrated, but I think it's going to be a really good game. And I've really enjoyed watching both Denmark and Czech Republic in the tournament. But I would go with the Danes. I think it'll be a very interesting and exciting 2-1. I think it'll be end to end. But I think the Danes will edge it just based on a bit more quality. But the Czechs are going to be very, very hard to beat, and they're a lot more physically imposing than I feel a lot of the Danes, especially some of their midfielders who are a bit more technical. But I would go with the Danes just based off what I've seen so far, and I love their offensive cohesiveness. I love the freeness in which they play, and their passing patterns and everything. So I would go with the Danes. Just
Chinedu.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Emeka in terms of I think the Danes, number one, have the quality, and number two, have the cohesion to actually get through. I think the Czech Republic have overachieved being here personally, but I think the Danes edge it on the day. My prediction is 3-1.
We go over to the Spaniards versus the Swiss. What do we think happens there, Chinedu?
I think the Spaniards win it very convincingly. I think this will be the end of the run for Switzerland. They've had their little moment of magic in the tournament, but I think Spain edges it 3-0. And the only reason I say this is because I also think they're going to be they're going to be, what's the word? They're going to be victims of their own excitement because, beating the world champions, the level of excitement that comes with that, they might get over their heads, and I think Spain just
might give them confidence.
Exactly. And both teams played extra time, so they'll probably have the same level of fatigue. That's true. That might come in.
I'll go with Spain as well. I mean, it'd be a brave man to bet on Switzerland in this game, but I think it'll be a lot closer than that. I think Switzerland will score. Maybe score 2. So I'll be surprised to see a 3-1 or 3-2 Spain win.
Okay, and last stop, England versus Ukraine.
Comfy.
We back.
Are we also playing at Wembley?
Most likely.
It's Rome this time. It's in Rome.
Finally.
It's in Rome. Yeah. No, but I think I don't win convincingly, so it's going to be 1-0. It's going to be like a 1-0 or 2-1 because again,
you're pipping England to continue.
So I think yes, England will
continue without conceding a goal in this tournament.
No, I think they might concede a set piece or something. I think, but I won't be. A 1-0 wouldn't surprise me. So I'm going to go for 1-0, 2-1 England. But it's going to be tight, as always.
Logically, I would go with a 1-0 England, but I would like to see a 2-1 Ukraine.
How awesome is it that you get someone like Gareth Southgate going up against Andriy Shevchenko?
That's crazy.
Doesn't that make you feel? Doesn't that make you feel old?
Old, bro. Old as hell. Old as hell.
That's so crazy. Well, let's move to the next thing. The away goals were scrapped by UEFA in all cup competitions. What do you guys think about that? Was that necessary? Was that where they should have been investing their efforts right now? And how does that change two-legged ties for you? Chinedu, I'll start with you.
I don't think it was necessary. I don't think it was something that, I don't think it was something that people were clamoring for changing. Because clearly with playing away, you're at a disadvantage to begin with. So for me, the rule made sense in the first place that, if you're able to get an away goal, it should count more towards something. And so I don't think UEFA should have been focusing their energy on that. If anything, they should have been focusing on not changing the format of what they're doing and adding more games to their competition. So I think it was a very unnecessary change. I think it changes huge games as well because, a lot of games we've seen over the years have been decided on the away goal rule. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out in champs and
logically, what I thought was always dumb was the fact that one team had 30 minutes more to score an away goal in the second leg. I thought that never made sense. That would have made sense if you said away goals end after 90 minutes. Now we play 30 minutes, whatever. Yeah. That's just me. Scrapping it entirely now just means we're going to see a lot more extra times for no reason. And it just takes away that excitement of teams going away and trying to score and then having to tactically change the way they play at home to make sure that the other team doesn't. Now it's just, I feel like that extra level of detail that used to go into the games is gone now because everything counts for the same.
I do think there's a bit of I wouldn't say unfair advantage, but there's for teams that have made their homes, for instance, an absolute fortress, that's going to weigh very, very negatively on the other teams because you're going to come and feel like you can't score a goal. And even if you score a goal, it's just a matter of much of it you probably in front of your own fans.
There's that angle. I'm on the other side. I think it's very disadvantageous to small teams because that was the thing that would probably help teams upset bigger teams and make the ties interesting. They're playing this giant, but they got a 1-1 draw. And they lost only 2-1 when they went away, and now they're bringing it home and they just go for it. Now I just think big teams will always. Now it will be a lot easier for big teams to flex on smaller teams. Emeka, what do you think?
Yeah, you guys are spot on. I don't think it's good for the game at all. And first of all, I think it's defensive managers are celebrating. All of them, Tuchel, even that's what Simeone, Mourinho. This is perfect for them. Just go away. No incentive to attack. Shut up shop. then go home and hope for the best and do your thing.
0-0 ball.
I mean, we're going to see a lot of disgusting. What do you say? A lot of disgusting ties now. And like I said, it's going to be the better team more often than not to almost always win now, because like I said, the goals don't really count any extra now. So for instance, like you said, when like Barcelona and Roma, whatever, but I think it was 4-1. And then you can go, second leg, and the disparity, you can score less to still make it based on the goal you scored away from home. Now
Exactly.
it's like it's just goal for goal. So it's the better team more often than not is always just gonna win. And I don't like what it's gonna do, where a lot of teams are gonna sit back and hope for the best at home, and that added incentive to try and attack, plus the having your fans try and drive you to an away goal, drive you to a home goal after scoring a goal away from home. I think it's going to, I mean, eventually we'll all get used to it, like we always do with all these changes. We'll all get used to it in the end, but I don't think it's good for the game. I think the extra time suggestion you made would have made a lot more sense, but I don't like this at all.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page on that. I think the next place we want to move to is the new Zlatan movie that's coming out that he announced on his page. Very exciting, because Zlatan is one of those larger than the sports athletes where, and I don't know, did you guys ever read his book that he released?
No, I didn't.
So I read it, and it was exceptional, cover to cover. I think I read it twice. His whole story was nuts, especially the fact that obviously a lot of people have that people didn't believe in me, but like really having to do things in Sweden and like making his career away from home, and then how he's been with his agent who everyone knows and also kind of has a similar personality to him, Mino, and all their stories together, and just his journey through the top clubs in Europe and making his brand and carrying Sweden on his back. I think there's just so many facets to the story that I really got to see in the book, and I think a movie would just make that a lot more accessible for people who don't have the time or never got to sit down to read the whole book cover to cover. But I say that because, one, I want to get your thoughts on what you think about that, and whether you're excited or not, and then other players that you'd like to see a movie about their life. I'll start with you, Emeka.
Okay, yeah, on Zlatan, yeah, I think it's he deserves it. No bigger personality in football, and any man that can say he's played for Man United, Barcelona, AC Milan, Inter Milan, Juventus, PSG. Like, I mean, how interesting would that be to,
and Ajax, that's a European
and
powerhouse.
Ajax, of course.
Yeah. Sounds like Anelka.
And we got the Anelka movie, and we loved it.
How amazing would it be to see, his experiences there, and again, just the personality and also his upbringing, being an immigrant in Sweden and some of the hardships he went through. I think he deserves it. And again, there's no bigger character personality in football since probably maybe Cantona or whatever. So credit to him, and I think he deserves it. Who would I like to see? I think there are a few. I would love to see a movie on maybe someone like David Beckham. I would love to. I think again, he's just Hollywood, so I think.
So goal 3 wasn't enough for you.
No, I want a David Beckham, about him himself, Man United, again, Madrid, Milan.
I'm becoming a pop star. Yeah,
with his wife, exactly.
I
think that would be a good one. Maybe De Lima, Ronaldo, Nazario. I think that would be a good one. Struggles, again, big clubs. Struggles with addiction, weight, his injury, the World Cup. I think that would be a good one.
Maybe even that reminds me, maybe even Ronaldinho as well, because of the things that have happened since struggles with addiction as well. And yeah, I think that just came to mind. But Chinedu, I'd love to get your thoughts before I go.
Yeah, I'm super excited for the Zlatan movie. I think, obviously, like you guys have said, he's played for a number of hit clubs, and he's one of those people that always his ego always critiques him in the room. So it'll be very exciting to see. I saw the trailer, and it looked like very, very good cinema. One of the people I personally like to see a movie of is Benzema, because first of all, always been.
You've already gotten a movie. This guy drops a movie every 2 weeks. That's why.
That's my point. That's my point. Compile it. But it's also just, honestly, it's also been in the shadow of all these fantastic players over the years, and just never, I feel like, getting the full credit he deserves for what he's done. being so consistent over the years. So I think it's very interesting to see his take. But someone else I think I would like to see a movie on would be, let me think. I think Zidane. Obviously, the glittering career that he had, best in the world at his position, and then the low of the World Cup, and I feel like a lot of blame going to him for losing out to Italy, and then obviously coming back and reviving his career as a manager. So I would love to see like because that's always exciting, right? That's how the movies are always people engage, right? The ups and the downs. So I think Zidane is one of those players / managers that I would love to see a movie on.
Yeah, that I love those. When I saw the movie, I remembered how much I really wanted Jamie Vardy movie, like playing at every single level of the FA Cup, from non-league to winning it to being in non-league till you're like 24, 26. I can't remember what it was, and really like starting his career when you could never imagine. And I remember like his story is so crazy because that season that he came up with Leicester, could have very easily gone back down, and we never speak of Jamie Vardy because they were bottom till Christmas. Everyone said they were dead and buried, and they went on the crazy run, stayed up, and the next season they win the title, and then now we all know who. Because that season he even scored 4 goals. Like, we're never going to talk about Jamie Vardy ever again. Then he goes, scores more than 20, breaks the scoring record consecutively. They win the title, and then since then now he's just been breaking more records. And
why is he not in the England squad?
Because he retired from international football. I wanted him to go back. Yeah, I want him to go back, but they're not even putting Calvert-Lewin in the squad. I think the competition for strikers, he should get in, but I just think Southgate is more. Like Kane. Yeah, exactly. Southgate is going to play Kane, and then is more concerned with taking other players. Yeah, but I really need to see a Vardy move because now he's also bought a club in the US and trying to revive them, and just that story of going from nothing to the pinnacle. Yeah, I need to see that. I also would love to see Thomas Tuchel. I love his story, and especially because he tried out the football thing, didn't quite work out, went into management, has been working crazy, and has gotten to where he is today. I think that just going through the years of what he had to do as an assistant and giving up football and finding his way through from Mainz to Dortmund and just slowly making steps up until actually winning the Champions League and wherever that goes to next. I think I would absolutely love to see. I think also in line with that, I won't say who else I want to see because you guys will say, oh, you're call again. So I won't say who else I want to see. But I definitely want to also see Mesut Ozil. The whole debacle, the debacle with Germany being kicked out, what he did as a very, very young player. Well. Yeah, his time at Arsenal and where he is now. And just, I need to know what has been happening at Arsenal. And I think that'll come out in the movie. And yeah, I think those are the ones that come to mind right now.
I would love to see Ozil's perspective, especially. I mean, on the footballing level, he's probably the best 10 I've ever watched. But I would love to see how he's one of those players that he's quiet or he seems quiet, but he's also very resolute in his decision. So like he doesn't back down from his decision. So I like to see how that played out with the national team as well as with Arsenal, and the pay cuts and all that stuff. So I think also will be a great watch.
Yeah, I also need to see Robinho. Because being like one of the early people when Man City started this revolution that they were doing and just the career he had before, he was one of my favorite players. I need to see a little bit more of his story. And the last person I was thinking about was Adam Johnson staying on the Man City because that, honestly, when that happened, that was the craziest thing that I ever thought could ever happen in football. Like in football, actually going to jail and like all of that stuff that happened and like being an actual signed footballer when that happened, having your contract terminated, having to no more be a footballer anymore. And before actually, like I loved his left foot. He was like actually a decent player. And so, yeah, I think there'll be many facets in that story. Look like you guys had thoughts on that.
I don't know what else there is to see that.
Don't act like you don't want to see that movie.
I'm good.
I think, is there anything left? I think the last things are just some transfers, City trying to splash money.
No, I think we can wrap it up.
Actually, before we wrap it up, I want to get one more thing out. Would you rather your club win the Champions League or your country win the World Cup? Take a second to think about it before you answer.
Me, I've had many seconds because Emeka asked this question on the TL.
Did you vote?
I did vote. I voted country.
Okay.
And for me, there's a number of reasons. Number one, I think my loyalty to my country is a lot stronger. Sadly,
really,
Nigeria. Sadly, it's a lot stronger than my loyalty to.
It's because you don't have to have VPN.
No,
That's why you're loyal.
On a footballing level, I think first of all, the World Cup comes around every 4 years. For your country to even qualify for the World Cup is a huge thing on its own to go to the World Cup final. So,
wait, please, can I cut you off?
Yeah.
Before we actually do this, I think it would be remiss of us not to touch on the AFCON banter that was going on this week. Why do you guys think that the best of the best players come to AFCON and they cannot do it?
I think AFCON is just a crazy man's league, man. When you have the likes of Aurier defending, you have Eric Bailly on the same team. What are you going to do?
I think there are many facets. I think terrible pitches, obviously less quality in the teams. So again, more often than not, the best players in Premier League, Serie A, and top leagues, African players that go back, they're more often than not playing in a less quality team when they're back home. Poor quality management, and again, a lot of time when I see those pitches, they're terrible. They're terrible pitches. You can't play your sweet nice football that you play in the Premier League in AFCON. And just lack of tactical after
they're just sending people out to go and play.
I see
a lot more freestyling. I see a lot more one-on-one dribbling. I see less patterns. Again, a lot of it is more based on one-on-ones. And again, just the typical thing where all Africans, we grow up here, there's a lot more emphasis on dribbling, a lot more emphasis on one-on-one playing and your speed, blah, blah, blah. But I think it was lower level tactical coaching, terrible pitches and terrible and lesser quality teams. And it's not really that difficult, I think.
And the way Mecca just succinctly put that. When you say lower quality teams, we tend to think people like Ghana, Ivory Coast, those teams Senegal are pretty strong.
Yeah, no, they are. But I'm saying compared to the team. So when the likes of Toure, Drogba, them came back, Essien, like again, it's just even like international football in the let's say even the best teams here in like England. Again, a lot of times international football is just generally not as exciting, and generally you can see more often than not teams they don't gel as well. You see this England team now, for instance. Well, you're always wondering why isn't Kane doing what he's doing for Spurs? It's like different systems, a lot of individual players coming together, less time to train. Managers don't have that much time with their players to like train and create patterns. So a lot of time is really about individuals. And when you now go to AFCON, again, so the teams are not as good generally than as the teams they were playing at. So Essien was playing with Lampard, but now he's playing with maybe Stephen Appiah or something. So he's still a relatively good player, but he's not as good. And again, they're expected to do a lot more than they have to do in their clubs. So there are a lot of factors to it. And again, when you see the pitches, you can't do normal 5-yard passes and stuff like that. So I think those are the factors. There are factors to it. And again, just generally, like I said, international football, more often than not, it just seems like a struggle sometimes to watch, just based off the fact that a lot of players they're not like in the similar systems to their teams. Which is why when you can have players do similar to what they do in their clubs, like Hosens at left wing back, or even just like Luke Shaw and Maguire's left-sided partnership that they have at United, stuff like that. Little partnerships you can create are very key because there's there's a lot of unfamiliarity when it comes to international football a lot of the time.
Cheredu, my question to you is: do you think there's a timing aspect to it with players the top players not really wanting to go super hard because they're returning to this is crunch time, winter period. They're returning back to their teams where they are probably going to be judged more and where their performances might matter more to them. So they come to AFCON, they just kind of need to do this thing and then don't really play like they would on their teams. And because the season is still going on. So with the Euros, the season is over. You're focused here. The next thing is preseason, then the next season. But AFCON is like, I'm here, and then we have a game once we leave here in 5 days.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a huge aspect to it. Like, a lot of them would value a lot more those European championships than,
You think so?
AFCON. I wouldn't say it's the sole factor, but I think it does play a role. So I think there's been a lot of debate around, changing the time for AFCON and how that would look. But I think I also, I can see the other side of it, where I've watched Mo Salah and the likes of Mahrez as well play for their countries, and they've left everything on the field, like they're giving their all. So I can see how it plays a role, and how sometimes, especially if you're having a great campaign, for instance, in the Premier League, and this is your one chance to win the Premier League, you might, take a step back from AFCON and what it has. But I think at the same time, there's still the pride that comes from winning things with your country and carrying your country as well. So
I think those guys, if you hear them speak, I think those guys are, if you ask Salah, would he rather win like the World Cup in Egypt, or even AFCON? Those guys, they play with their lives, and they know, when they're trash for their countries, the amount of slack they get is nothing like the amount of slack they get in Liverpool or something. So those guys, they know they can't.
Because now Salah has won a Champions
League. They know they just can't. Yeah, I mean, I'm speaking generally. I don't think they. Maybe you can say that it's affected their rhythm slightly. So maybe there's that rhythm change. So you're playing cool weather, nice pitches. Then all of a sudden you're changing teams.
You're playing beach football.
Yeah, so mid-season. So maybe that change of rhythm, change of scenario. But I don't think mentally, because I don't think that's fair. If, for instance, England, let's say
you're playing guys that wear short. You're playing guys that wear sleeveless.
Let's say Euros was mid-season. Would we say that the players were not as focused on Euros because they wanted to play? Because
I mean, we can say that with Nations League. How serious were the people take Nations League?
It's not a serious tournament. But even if those guys still ball, and their full teams are always out. So I think it's more about, you can say change of environment, you can say mid-season, but I think a lot of it is just really, like I said, pitches and less quality on their teams. Salah can't do what he does for Egypt, for Liverpool, for Egypt. Again, less service, and it's just a completely different environment. So you can.
I love how you've come.
It's different.
You've taken me to the last question I had on this topic. Why did Mohamed Aboutrika have this in a chokehold for so many years?
The same way Owen was a better player for England than for his club. Some people are just that's just what they're made for. And those Egyptian ballers, a lot of those guys played domestically as well.
Why did he never come to Europe? Was going to be my other question.
Yeah, some people are that's him. That was his pride. So international ballers.
I'm going to say opportunity.
Yeah, that was someone that I always liked, and I was curious as to why he was so good in AFCON but never made the journey across the pond.
No, but you say it like it's just you're good in Africa or Middle East or wherever, they come and scoop you up. There are a lot of Saudi players that are tearing up to Saudi league. They never make it to Europe. Alhamdulillah is one of them. Never make it to Europe, and he's fine there. He's fine doing well for the Saudi league and playing there. So not everybody's built for the big stage. We've said this before. Everybody's built for Europe. So,
that's facts. That's fair. Now back to the final question of the day. Your team winning Champions League, or your country winning the World Cup. Chinedu, finish up from where I stopped.
I'll keep it really quick. Yeah, I was just going to say, first of all, the World Cup comes around every 4 years, as opposed to the Champions League, which comes around every year. And if you're a supporter of a big enough club like Manchester United, you expect to be in the Champions League every single year on year, as opposed to the World Cup, which comes around every 4 years, and your country might not make it there every 4 years because you might support a very bad country like Nigeria. So, therefore, this is why I hope I've been able to convince you and not confuse you on why it's always better to support your country and not the club.
Emeka, where do you stand?
Yeah, I stand definitely with Chinedu on that. I think there are a few factors for that. I think just the experience of having Nigeria round by round, watching it in Nigeria. I'm in Nigeria at the moment, and seeing them get to the final and win. I think that's a once in many generations kind of thing. It's not 1, 5, 10 years, something that's probably not going to happen in my lifetime. So like I think to witness that would be incredible. And again, I've seen my club win 2 Champions Leagues. So like I mean I've experienced that and I remember them like very well. So I think for me it's
You
pretty
haven't seen
clear.
them win 3?
No, I wasn't I wasn't born in 1968 now. So, so I've seen my club win 2 Champions League, and again, like what you said, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, I would rather if Man United was playing tomorrow and Nigeria was playing tomorrow in a vacuum, I would rather watch United than Nigeria.
Yes.
But the experience of, and I would say like I enjoy watching my club more than my country. But the experience of a World Cup, winning a World Cup, and watching every round with like family, friends, and the final to actually win that, I think the excitement will be a lot more than the Champions League, even though it's quite close though.
Yeah, sorry. On a logical level, like think of how many countries have been able to retain the title of like. I'm saying it because I'm basically saying it's literally a one thing, a sometimes generation thing, no matter how good your country is. So if you supported France, it'd be easier maybe to say, oh, I'd rather see my club win the Champions League. But then even the likes of France, the likes of Germany, the likes of those huge like big hitters, they can't retain titles that easily. So it's easier for me to sit and be like, not only do I support a country like Nigeria, but like even on an international scale, it's very hard to retain trophies. So if you get the chance to win a trophy, cherish that moment, like with your life. You know what I mean?
I think that was the mistake they made in the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. South Africa was literally the only country you could have played that in that an African team wouldn't have won. When they played in any other country, with any other pitches, they would have understood why AFCON reigns supreme.
Ghana could have done it for us, but Ghana could have done it for us, but
those pitches were too level for Africans to win that World Cup. If they played that in Teslim Balogun, then they would have known why AFCON reigns supreme. But with that, when you analyze the beautiful game, share your expert opinions, or do a topical deep dive, you just really need to make sure at the end of the day, you ask yourself, Chinedu, please tell them what they need to ask themselves.
Do I really, really, really know ball? Thank you very much.
Good night.